Hello and welcome once again to Four Wheels Good, the programme which sets you straight on the road to motoring heaven, where you'll be soothed by the comforting sights and sounds of engines from the finest motors on the highways of today. On today's show, Steve Vokins contemplates trading in his old Volvo for a Jaguar, but finds there are certain things he can do to fetch a better trade-in price. Talking of Volvos, Mike Rutherford test drives the Volvo XC, which stands for Cross Country, and asks the question, is it really an off-roader? And John Wright will be digging out his overalls and delving deep under the bonnet of Inside Motors. But first, I've been taking a look at a very special vehicle, a car which, when it first appeared on British roads, seemed to make supercars affordable to the masses. This mid-engine sportster is, of course, the Lotus Europa. Lotus had a problem. How do you replace a classic like the Elan? Colin Chapman, ever the innovator, wanted to move on and create a new design, but the public was still in love with the older design. His answer, the Europa, bringing the concept of the mid-engine sports car down to the dizzy heights of the supercar and down to the reach of the average person. But over the years, the Europa has lived in the shadow of the more classic Elan. And interestingly enough, they were both in production together for a short time. But has the Europa been harshly overlooked?
The Lotus Europa came in three different models. The Series 1, which could be identified by having bonded in side screens. The Series 2, which had electric windows. And the last model, and very desirable, is the Europa Twin Cam, which had the Lotus Elan Twin Cam engine. This is the most expensive, the fastest, and the best of the Europas.
Perhaps people are put off by the rumours regarding reliability on earlier Lotus models. We went along to Banks service station in Southport, who are Europa specialists. Not only do they manufacture replacement bodies and restore Europas that are brought in, but they also market their own chassis powered by Vauxhall's renowned 2-litre engine. And body inspired by the rare racing Europa 47R. So you can actually build a new Europa if you wish.
Banks started business as a parts supplier and rebuilder of the Lotus Europa. In the course of supplying parts, many of the parts were no longer available, and we started remanufacturing. Using modern materials and modern machinery methods, it was a short step to actually producing our own car.
So, do I like it? Well, if you've just stepped from a Mazda MX-5, this may seem a little raw. but it is a real driver's experience. The Lotus Europa, a car with class. Now, if you've ever considered purchasing a car with power and rigidity that you can rough it with and also enjoy safety and comfort on the highway, then Mike Rutherford may just have the answer. He's been test driving the Volvo XC and breaking all the rules at the same time, including chasing a few sheep.
Well, let me give you a little history lesson. A few years ago, when I asked Volvo why they didn't have a four-wheel drive vehicle, they said, oh, four-wheel drive, we're not convinced. We think two-wheel drive on a properly engineered car is as good a bet as four-wheel drive a la Audi. Well, things have changed since then because Volvo have since decided that a four-wheel drive car is not a bad idea indeed. And what's more, they've gone one step further by having launched their V70 all-wheel drive AWD. They've now gone for this, something they're just about to launch in the UK, called the Volvo V70 all-wheel drive Cross Country. What it is effectively is a car that kind of looks like an off-roader, but is actually not an off-roader. It's a car for on-road use, predominantly on-road use for 99.9% of its life, and the four-wheel drive facility is not there to go mud plugging or driving through rivers. It's there really to ensure that you're safe on those icy roads at night and to give you that extra traction. It's a very sophisticated system. Most of the time you've got 95% or thereabouts of the drive going to your front wheels and 5% drive to the back wheels, but depending on what sort of surface you hit, in fact you might even be hitting two surfaces at the same time. You might, for example, have gravel on two wheels on one side of the car and tarmac or snow or whatever on the other side. Depending on whatever road conditions you happen to stumble across, the car then decides for you exactly what you need. It's almost like driving a luxury limousine come off-roader. You know, there are better cars off-road than this for obvious reasons, but there aren't too many cars in this league that drive like a limousine and have the performance of this V70 all-wheel drive cross country. They've got to do something about that name, it's far too long. The physical difference between the standard V70 all-wheel drive and the cross-country version is that the cross-country has 16-inch alloy wheels, increased ground clearance, front bumpers with overriders, has a new style grille, grey side mouldings, a retractable rear bumper dust cover, partial colour keyed rear bumpers, new style roof rails with crossbars, canvas and leather upholstery in grey or oak, these amazing little floor mats that should cope with the mud and water that you'll be lugging into the car, and side nets at the rear to protect those awkward loads from flying around. It has that same 2.5 litre 5-cylinder light pressure high performance engine. The first thing I have to admit is that we've broken all the rules. We've taken the car off road. Well, they told us not to go off-road. They told us it wasn't an off-roader. It's the vehicle that looks like an off-roader, but is actually for on-road use only. But you know what we're like. We had to break the rules. We've taken the thing off-road. We've been up some pretty hilly, flinty roads. We've been through some streams. We've been through some mud. And I've got to say, there's never any danger of getting stuck. We weren't terribly adventurous where we went. We wouldn't go anywhere that you would go in a Jeep Cherokee or a Jeep Grand Cherokee or Wrangler, come to that. And I'm afraid we've got a few casualties along the way. These are bits that have fallen off the Volvo V70 Cross Country. That's the bad news. The good news is they're all bits designed to fall off. These are bits that you might take off the car when you're towing or whatever. So they just need to be slotted in. We'll do away with those for the time being, I think, don't you? But I think it says says a lot for the car that it's done what we expected it to do and more. Don't buy this car, don't even think about this car if you want to go into serious off-roading. If that's your bag, stick with something like a Range Rover or a Jeep, because this is really the car for on-road use that might be used for 1% of its life, you know, going into a muddy field, to pull out a horse box, to pull out a boat, down on the farm, that sort of thing. The four-wheel drive facility, we can't stress this often enough, the four-wheel drive facility is when you're on a tarmac road in winter, when there's that black ice or sheet ice that might be there that you might not even see. That's when the Volvo V70 all-wheel drive Cross Country, probably the car with the longest name in the world, comes into its own.
Watch out, Mike, or the farmer will have his blunderbuss on you. Well, that's all for part one, but join us after the break when we shall be finding out more on the state of Steve Vokins' car as he tries to get a good price for it. And John Wright will be taking us by the hand and leading us through the world of Inside Motors. Welcome back to Four Wheels Good, the programme that's at the epicentre of all that rocks in motoring. Now, have you ever considered that with something as simple as a bit of a clean-up, your car could increase its value quite sizably? Well, that's what Steve Vokins found out recently when trying to get a good trade-in price for his old Volvo.
If you go on holiday at the beginning of August, you'll meet all sorts of interesting people, but I guarantee you won't meet any car dealers. That's because August is the month when most cars are sold. Up to a quarter of the year's brand new car sales are made in August. That obviously means there's a lot of second-hand cars as trade-ins, so it's a very good time to buy. I'm interested in buying this Jag. Lovely price, fabulous car, but I need to know what I'm going to get for a trade-in on my old Volvo. So, Mr. Salesman, what's the best price you can offer me on it?
Well, looking at the car and the way it's been looked after, I have to say it looks like you've been living in it. The back seats have got about 2 mils still not cleaned up on it. The paint's faded and the other bits and pieces. It's definitely going to need a lot of sorting out. So
what's the best price you can offer me?
Well, the most against this one, like it is, would be about £800. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
then. 800 quid. I need more than that. It's worth more than that. We'll see. We'll see. 800 quid. It's worth more than that. All right, so it's scruffy, but I'm sure I can get more than that. All right, I know I should have cleaned it first, but don't have time. Hello, Talking Peters. Can you give me the name, please, of a decent car mobile valeting service, please?
Having been in the car trade for about 20 years myself, buying and selling cars, I can absolutely assure you that the dealer will look more favourably on a vehicle if it turns up looking in a showroom condition, because it cuts down the amount of work that he has to do, and therefore you're bound to get a better price for it. It also, it's first impressions, and if a dealer looks at a vehicle and it's clean and tidy, it certainly gives the impression that it's been well maintained. We actually do a complete range of services, starting from a mini valley, which roughly begins at about £12, going up through 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and complete valleys on inside and out. We can do round engine bays, and we do a complete treatment to the whole vehicle. Obviously the prices vary depending on what you're having done, and don't forget we also do commercials as well.
So tell me, which is more important, an inside clean or an outside clean?
Well, obviously the outside clean is the first thing that you would see if you were pulling up outside a garage, which gives you the first impression. But really and truthfully, what says more about the actual motorist, I think, is the actual interior of the vehicle. We take a lot of trouble to go to ashtrays inside the door trims. The windows are very important. Everything is done. And when we leave a car completely valeted, we put in the plastic seat covers, we put in an air freshener usually, and when the customer drives off in his car after we finish with it, he's certainly very impressed, and it's certainly different to trying to achieve the same standard on his own. The beauty of it is it's convenient. You don't have to give us a plug. We can simply turn up and do the job for you. A full valet normally would take about 3 hours depending on the condition, so you can see the amount of valuable leisure time that you would be saving by not having to get involved and do it yourself.
Can you just talk me through the interior of the van? There's a bewildering array of chemicals and a generator and everything else. Tell me more about it.
That's right, we've got a Honda generator here that gives us power anywhere we can go, so we can go, as I said, anywhere in the country and do a valet.
I didn't think my car was that bad, but when I see all the rubbish outside and see the dirt that you've got out of it, I'm quite ashamed of it. Presumably, I mean, tell me it's not the worst you've ever done, please.
Certainly it isn't the worst that I've ever done. We have to clean up a lot of things that people don't like to talk about. Dog fouling, cat fouling, people being sick in cars, and also we go to places where the car is, say for example, a car is used on an estate. I've been to one estate where it was used on a nursery estate, and for example, I opened the back door and literally the dirt fell out, and it was a question of actually getting the power hose inside the car to clean the car, clean the carpets, clean the seats. It was that bad. We try and get the car back to as near as possible to a showroom condition. On every car that isn't always possible, but we do our very best to do that.
Right, the chaps have been at it a couple of hours now. They've just about finished. Let's have a look, see how good it is. While they've been doing it, I've been looking in the catalogue at some of the pictures, and they're really very, very nice. I'd certainly buy it if it was new. But looking at the car now, it looks almost new. I'm most impressed. Let's have a look inside. Oh wow, smells lovely. The headlining's clean, everything gleams. It's like new. It's 11 years old and it looks absolutely brand spanking new.
Right, initially on the setup of your franchise, you're supplied with chemicals from Autosheen, and they range from leather cleaners through to multi-cleaners, which we use on vinyls. There's also low foam additives that we use to clean your seats. There's also gels that we use to dress the outside of the vehicle, and of course not forgetting polishes, various types of polishes. I carry 5 different types of polish to clean a car from various stages, depending on the state of the car, depending on what cut that we need to cut the paintwork, basically, from a very hard T-cut, if you like, right through to an exhibition polish. In the front of the vehicle, or halfway through the vehicle, we carry a 60-gallon water tank, and that's filled up, and obviously we can go anywhere, as I said before, and we can actually do the valet there and then. As I said, generator, power washer, chemicals, water hoses, you name it, we've got it to clean the car.
So what do you think then?
Well, is it the same car?
It is actually, you wouldn't believe
Well,
it. But
no,
it is.
you wouldn't. But I mean, now it looks like a well looked after car, and we can see we haven't got to do any paintwork on it. The interior's good. It's a nice car. We could put that straight on the front, so I think we can manage £1,500 on that now.
That's more like it. Well, this was the car I was lusting after this morning, and it's very nice. All original, leather interior, air conditioning, auto, lovely, very nice. But what with my car looking as clean and as nice as it is now, I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, Steve, I'm glad you at least got your car cleaned up, and we'll see Steve Vokins again very soon. It's time now to make our merry way over to the Four Wheels Goods studio garage for another taste of nuts and oil with John Wright in Inside Motors.
We've had a change of gloves, we've changed the engine round. Now I'm going to get rid of this crankshaft pulley nut. First of all, we've got to take this turnover back, and we'll take this off. Now these can quite often be very tight. That's why I'm doing it now with the crankshaft still in. Having said this was going to be a bit tight, it looks like it's one of the loosest I've seen for a long time. And the nut's actually turning as I'm knocking this out. Just got that flat. Right, just get a socket on this. I don't think it's going to take a lot. No, there we go. Yeah, rid of the pulley as well. Right, now we can start getting into the heart of the engine. We'll take the crankshaft away, which is this. Right, to take the crankshaft away, we've got to remove big ends, which are there, and then the mains, and we'll get rid of the oil strainer as well. Okay, right, to start, again, they've all got tangs on, those folded over washers, so we'll just knock all of them away, and then we'll start undoing the bolts. Let's get rid of this strainer. And then the big bolts at the back. Well, that should do it. Right, pull that away. Just knock the last few of these down. Then we can start taking things apart. There we go. That one. Over there. No, we got one. One down here. Right. Actually, for an old engine, this is in remarkably good condition. Okay. Right, we're really into... Oh, let's get rid of that. We're really into taking the engine apart now. I've just loosened the big ends.
And John will of course be getting his hands dirty again next week. Also on next week's show we'll be looking at a car which is almost silent, Toyota's RAV4 EV. Ian Royal will be reporting on Subaru's recent venture into the sports utility market, and Jenny Buckley will be driving an enormous bedroom on wheels from Volkswagen. See you then.